Díomh, Tásúla an gúil si an an méid listal. Hope you can all hear me. So I see there's lots of people waiting here, which is great. And I'd like to say hello and welcome to you all to the very first live bite-sized Q&A. Guramagi fad as na ceistena. So thanks a lot for all of the questions. And I hope I'll get to answer as many as possible tonight. I'm not too sure how many I'll get to answer. And I know that some of you have also asked some questions in the comments box as well. So that's great. Right, so I'll get into it then. First of all, I'll take the questions that were entered in the past few days. So the first one is from Mike in Colorado, in the USA, and he's very new to Irish, and he only started about a month ago. He says he regularly listens to Radio na Gaeltachta, one of the Irish language radio stations here in Ireland, which is brilliant. Mahu, well done. Now his question is, how can I look up words I hear if I've no idea how to spell them with the Irish phonetics and alphabet? Now, that is a great question, because it's very important to learn the most common words. Now, the only way I can think of that you could actually do that is to ask someone who knows. So that's where the human intervention really is needed. Now, you're more than welcome to email us at Bite Size Irish. Perhaps sending a recording of yourself saying the word would work best, because trying to write phonetically in English can be quite difficult to decipher. Either way, we'll do our best to figure out what's being said. So either asking us or finding an Irish speaker and asking them is really the only way to get around that I know of anyway. So thank you again. Gura mahagat. Mike asan geshin. So thanks, Mike, for that question. So our next question then is from Mary. She's from Ireland, and her question is how to learn Irish alone with no one to speak it with. Now, a very common problem, of course. So, of course, using a language is certainly the best way to not forget what you've learned, and also it's the best way to learn new words. There are a few ways to get around this. One of them would be to find someone online to speak with. There are many people online who want to speak Irish to others, both those who are learners themselves and also fluent speakers. Bite Size Irish is also has a new initiative to get learners together to speak Irish together. But another way, if you can't find anyone online, you should be able to find someone maybe through Facebook. There's different forums and stuff where you could get practically a pen pal or set up a language exchange, either through writing or on Skype or something of the sort. But if you can't do that, another way would be to keep a diary in Irish. That way you can practice using daily Irish, the daily normal stuff, just describing your routine, even if you've no one else to describe it to, just yourself. If you write it down, it's helpful. So you're not only thinking of the words you would use, but also a spelling. But you could also ignore that for the time being and focus on just getting the words out. You could also record yourself speaking around the house. Literally talk to yourself, but of course there's nothing like real-time conversation, of course, nothing like it, but that's, I guess, another option if you can't get someone to speak to. All right, then the next question is from Sister Elias from Maryland in the USA, and she's noticed that the Hail Mary is written nothing like its pronunciation until you're familiar with consonant sounds, and how, and she would like to know how pray for us sinners is supposed to sound. So pray for us sinners is gui orden na peki. Gui orden na peki. Now, just don't forget that there are different ways to pronounce that depending on one's dialect. Also, I've done a whole video on the Hail Mary, and it's available on the Bite Size Irish YouTube channel. So you can just search on the channel here, Hail Mary, it'll bring it up. Or just, I guess, Hail Mary in Irish, it'll bring it up if you Google that. So you can hear it all there. But just like most other European languages that share the same writing system, letters can sound different from language to language. So what you really need to do when you're learning Irish is to figure out how the letters sound in Irish, how the pairs of vowels and consonants and all of that stuff sounds in Irish. And then you'll find out quickly enough that Irish is a rather phonetical language, believe it or not. And any reputable Irish course, either online or in a classroom, should work you through Irish phonetics. Now, Owen from Bite Size Irish, he has created a course online called Crack Irish Pronunciation, and that's on the website Udemy. They do online courses. So the name of that is Crack, C-R-A-C-K, Irish Pronunciation. So that goes through all the different sounds and how Irish works, Irish pronunciation works. So, all right, so I see Owen himself is here, Gias Marowich. Owen, so it's great that everything's up and working. So that's the thing about pronunciation. Irish has its own writing system, similar to how French is different from English. So you just have to get used to it, to be honest, and then it'll all fall into place with practice. All right, so our next question is from Harriet from New York City. And her teacher is a native speaker from Donegal, and her husband speaks Munster Irish. So she would like to know how to avoid speaking a hodgepodge, as she described it, of Irish dialects. Now, to be honest, I'm not the best person to ask how not to pick up a mixed dialect. I have a mixed dialect myself, not only in Irish, but in English too. And I would say that if you want to just pick up one particular dialect, you would have to make an extra effort, because you have to make sure that you find a specific word used in your specific chosen dialect every time you learn how to say something in Irish. Now, in your case, Harriet, I would say that it's most logical to pick the specific local dialect your teacher speaks. You should also immerse yourself in recordings and other materials from that particular dialect. Now, I'm sure your teacher can help you out on that. And but that's in your case. Everyone's case is different. Some people, they just focus on picking up as many Irish words as possible. Words, just one word for each thing, and not focusing on dialects. Others focus on dialects. It's up to yourself. Some people have naturally a mixed dialect, as happens in all languages. So it's really up to yourself and which dialect you choose and everything. So it can be, to each their own. It can be like a difficult process for some to choose a dialect, and there are lots of different opinions on that. And it's very much based on a case-by-case scenario, I would say. All right, so next up then is a question from Kelly in North Carolina in the United States. And here's his question. If you were going to suggest 4 or 5 key verbs to learn the conjugations of initially, that would be most useful in basic conversation, what would they be? And also, what are good resources or approaches to learning the conjugations? So I would say that the most common and important is the verb be, which means to be, because it's everywhere. To, vi, all of those really common little words you find, they're all forms of that verb, which happens to be a very irregular verb. But it's the most common at the same time. Now, the next would be quer, which means to put. It's very common. And it's very versatile as well. Also, Jane, or Jane, whichever way you pronounce it. is to do or to make, obviously, another very common verb, as it is in English, to do or to make, both are used very commonly in English. And of course, they're all irregular verbs as well. It happens that, well, there's only 11 irregular verbs in Irish, and it happens that I would say that all the common ones are irregular, or at least most of the common ones are irregular. So, well, that's a good thing, I guess, because you get a lot of practice. You get a lot of practice. So the next one then, so I mentioned be, cur, and Jane. And the fourth one I would say would be tar, which means to come. And it's certainly an important one to learn, obviously, because it's very common. And then the other one I would say would be tuor or tor, which is to give. So the verb to give, tuor or tor, whichever way you want, or tuor, whichever way you pronounce it. So that's to give. So really, if you wanted to just see a list of these, I would say go and find a list of the irregular verbs, learn those. And to be honest, when you've learned the irregular verbs, you'll find that the regular ones are easier to learn, because obviously they're regular and they make a little more sense. Now, to actually getting down to learning them, I would say that, well, from my experience, the best way to learn conjugations is to see them in context and practice using them in sentences. You can find lots of examples online, such as on the websites Teanglann.ie. So Teanglann is spelled Teanglann.ie. But I'm sure if you Googled Irish dictionaries online, it will probably bring it up. So on that website, you have all the main Irish dictionaries, but there is also a grammar tab, and it goes through the conjugations quite well. You've also got folklore.ie, and that's which is spelled FOCLOIR.ie. So that's a newer dictionary, and there's tons and tons of sentences there with loads of examples and different tenses and everything of all of the verbs. So they're really handy for practicing and seeing words in context. So as I said there, you can also find the verbs conjugated on the grammar tab in Teanglann. So I would say that that's the best. That's the best way. Of course, just listening to Irish, reading. Of course, reading helps a lot, and that certainly helps a lot. Just that way you can see different words, again, different verbs in context. So, and that brings us onto a question from Michael in California. Now, his question was, what books would you recommend to someone who has completed all the classic bite-size online lessons and is looking to improve reading comprehension? Now, which books? It's hard to kind of pick them in a sense. I had to think about that, and I've chosen a few that I had around the house and ones I use myself. I would say to begin with children's books, but don't go too simplistic either. I've got a few here. These are from a very from the O'Brien or O'Brien publishers. They're just simple little books. You can see they don't have a lot. They don't have a lot of writing in them, but there's lots of verbs and simple, common little words. And just, I would say, if you get the chance to come to Ireland, or if you're living in Ireland, just get to a bookshop. There's on Shopalauer, the Irish language bookshop in Dublin on Harcourt Street, and they have tons and tons of children's books, and you can just see for yourself how much Irish is in them. But there's also lots of reputable retailers online as well, where you can find some very good books for children. Now, there's also this series, Soilse, S-O-I-L-S-E. Now, I believe they are out of print, but they are old school books, and even just going to a secondhand shop and finding old Irish language primers and readers, not too old though, because the spelling can be out of date, but like let's say from the past 20 years, that can help. But judging again from how much Irish you can see in the books. What I really think, yes, it's a bit more advanced, but what I think are really, really good ones to choose from is this book, O Fionn Fíorchaí, from the pen of, from Pierce's pen, I guess you could translate it as, and that's a collection of short stories from Patrick Pearse, Pádraig Mac Piarais. They're mostly for children or teenagers, and the Irish is very nice, but it's not really what you start out with, I would say, but still it's not that advanced. And also you've got the classic novels, children's classic novels like The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis, on loan on Bondry agus an Presedi. So you can get all of these books online in, well, you could order them to any bookshop in Ireland, and many of the bookshops in Ireland do have a little section for Irish books as well. So yeah, so there's lots of them out there. There's just too many to choose from, to be honest. That's the problem, which isn't really a problem, of course. Yeah, so right, so I hope that's answered your question, Michael. It's not very specific, I know, but I hope you can find some good books. Right, so the next question then is from L in North Carolina in the United States, and he would like to know if the pronouns she and e can be used interchangeably in the same sentence construction. Now, the answer is no. She changes to e when it's the object of the sentence. So this is getting a bit grammatical. What that means is, well, I'll explain it with an example. An example would be like, for she, it would be Olin she tea. She drinks tea. So she's the one that's doing it. So that's why it's she. But that's the subject, you would say. That's the grammatical term, subject. She's doing the action. But in the sentence, Olin more e. Or Olin more e, if it would be something that doesn't really make much sense, because we're talking about te, and te is masculine, so it's confusing a bit here. But she to e. So if it's the object of the sentence, if it's having something done to it, that's when it's e. Now this happens to some of the other pronouns. It happens to, and it happens to she as well. So an example with she is, well, it works better with the te one. So Olin she te, she drinks tea. Olin she te, but or Olin she te, he drinks tea. You could say that as well. Olin she te, so the pronoun she there. But Olin Marcin e. Marcin drinks it. Olin Marcin e. So because it's being drunk by Marcin, that's why it's e instead of she. Tá sé go Jess, it's nice, referring to the tea. So that's the thing, because you're not saying that something's being done to it, you're just describing it. So, and to can change to who as well. THU fada. So it gets the shabo. She'd also changes to eid. Ihin Mara Kaki. Mara eats cakes. Ihin Mara eid gakla. Mara eats them every day. So tá she'd blasta, they are delicious, but ihin she eat, she eats them. So I'm not sure if that's the clearest example, especially because I can't really write it up here. But that's, I hope you can understand that that's the difference. It loses the S there. She and she, they lose the S when they're the object of the sentence. Sorry, the subject, I should say. The thing that's getting the that's having the action done to it. All right, so I hope that was helpful. Now, we had another question from Katrina in Dallas, and she would like to know if there's a resource or a list of common Irish words. Now, I don't know of any proper list, I'm afraid. I Googled, and there's a fairly decent list on some Reddit. I'm not sure who put it together. I don't know how reputable it is, but it looked like a list of common words. And it was quite a long list. So if you Google common Irish words, you should be able to find that list linked on Reddit. But when it comes to learning common Irish words, I would say most learning material, or pretty much all learning material that's appropriate for your level of Irish, will be using these common words. And as always, it's best to learn words through context. So that's always best. So I hope that helps, Katrina. So just be reading and a lot, and looking it up in the dictionary. And there's lots of dictionaries. The dictionaries that I mentioned, Chonglan.ie and Folklore.ie, they're really the ones to use. They're easy to use, and they can really pick up other mutations of a word and stuff like that. So you can just get it from the book, type it in, and you can figure out what it means. So if it's simple enough book, especially like a children's book or something, they're going to be common words. So yeah. All right. So Jim from San Diego had a great question. Well, they're all great questions, obviously, but he asked where the most likely place is in Ireland to hear Irish spoken. It's a bit of a hard one to answer in a sense, because it all depends on the specific place you're in. Like, for example, in Dublin, there's An Siúpla Leabhar, which I mentioned there a while ago, the Irish language bookshop on Harcourt Street in the heart of Dublin. And you can just go in there, browse around, and you can hear people speaking Irish to the person at the till. So, you can hear the employees speaking Irish together. So that's an example of that, how you can go to a very specific spot and hear Irish. Also, they have a social club there for Irish speakers, so that would be another place in that very building, I believe. Now, when you're talking about going to an area, for example, statistically, the place with the most Irish speakers per population is Mean Lárach. M-I for the N, L-A for the R, A-C-H, Mean Lárach, and that's in Donegal, Mean Lárach. Another is Ranna-Feirste. Ranna-Feirste, R-A-N-N-A-F-E-I-R-S-T-E. Ranna-Feirste is in Donegal also. And also, well, in Galway then, there's An Carrow, and Corn, I believe, is very strong as well. But the strongest Gaeltacht areas, you can find statistics online, and that's just talking about it from a statistical point of view. But I've also heard that they're strong Gaeltachts. But again, it's very much, it depends on the house, depends on the establishment you go to. Like one pub, you might hear more than in the next pub or something. It depends on who works there. Could depend on the day of the week. Maybe on Wednesday, all the other speakers are working by accident in a specific restaurant, let's say, in a Gaeltacht area, whereas you might go in the next day and there could be other people working there, and they mightn't have any Irish. So it really does depend. It depends a lot, but those are the areas that, obviously, the Gaeltacht areas, and the stronger the Gaeltacht, you would imagine, the easier it will be to get Irish speakers. But as I said, it all depends on who you meet, like in a shop or whatever. All depends. Go to a very weak Gaeltacht, and you might be well able to do everything in Irish, depending on who you meet in a shop or in a pub. Or you could be completely outside the Gaeltacht and go to some let's say, get together and everyone could be speaking fluent Irish. It really does depend. That's the thing. It's not a very easy one to answer. And of course, if you just want to hear Irish any day of the week, we've got Radio na Gaeltachta, which is the Irish language radio station, one of them. There's also some others. And we've also got TG Cahar, the Irish language TV channel. So that's TG and the number 4. So you can just find those easily online. Irish language radio station, just Google those. And we also have some information about that on our blog on bitesize.irish on our website. So those are all the questions that were sent in to us, at least that I've seen. Now, we've got some others here in the comments. So the first one there was how to say the word duck. And the most common word for duck is lacha. And that's spelled L-A-C-H-A, lacha. So that's the most common word for a duck, lacha. And again, for just random Irish words, you can always go on and, yeah, I believe Owen there, you've just linked some of the things I've mentioned there, like chonglan.ie. You've just mentioned that. Thanks very much, Owen. And so you can just go into like Chonglan, just type in duck. You'll find lacha, you'll find other words that are used. You can hear them even being pronounced. So it's really, really handy. Really handy resource because you can even hear them in different dialects. All right, let's see now. Let's see what we've got up here now. So another question here, from Matt, we've got, how much of an influence do non-native languages such as Latin and English have in modern Irish? So Latin has always had, now we're not expert on this, but I know that Latin has always had an influence on Irish, well, always is for the past 2,000 years, practically, almost. So for a very long time. Latin has had an influence. And also Viking languages. That's why you can go as far east as Russian. You can find that we share some of the same words due to Latin, Greek, and some Viking or Scandinavian languages. So that's going back, of course, centuries. Over time, we got words from French, and obviously English as well, especially in more recent years, but also in the past, I would say 200 years or so. We've also shared our own words with English, for example. And so there are certainly loan words or non-native words in Irish. And we've also given, as I said, words to other major European languages. So I hope that answers your question, Matt. All right, let's see now if there's any others there. Let's see. If there's any, scrolling down here quickly. And to see if there's any other questions. And thanks again to you all for coming along. It's and someone here has mentioned the Gaeilge gan Stro book, and that's a very, very good series. And they have Gramadach gan Stro as well. They're a good series of books. And do I suggest Duolingo? I personally don't like Duolingo for any language. That's me. I just find it very tedious. That's just how I find it. But I know people who do use Duolingo, especially for practice, and they find it's brilliant. They just even for the daily practice, just using words. So I wouldn't say to use it on its own. And I don't think Duolingo even recommends using Duolingo on its own. So I'd say it all depends. It really does depend on the person. So if you like the Duolingo format, go for it. It won't do any harm. You know, it won't do any harm. I can't see it doing any harm. So someone says cork or quiche. So that's there are two words that are used for cake. Some people say quiche, some people say cork. Depends on the dialect, depends on the speaker. So, and you get a lot of these, of course, in English, I should say, as well. So let's see now. I can find any others. So let's see if there's any other questions here. So talking about traditional Irish girdle names. So I put up a video there. It's on the Bite Size Irish channel, YouTube channel. So on this channel, you can find lots of traditional Irish girdle names. Of course, it doesn't include them all. It's looking at it, I would say, from a more of a Gaeltacht point of view, maybe. There's lots of very old names that have been resurrected. And I've nothing against those. It's just that they mightn't have been as common, let's say, 30 years ago as they are now. And it all depends. So it's just because it's not on that video doesn't mean it's not a proper Irish name. So, but there's lots of names. So just Irish girdle names. I think the title of the video is, but girdle names, something like that, and you just search it on our YouTube channel, and we also have one for brides names as well. Let's see. Oh, and very good question there from Daniel. If there's any Irish audio books, there are Irish audio books. You can buy them. You can find them also online. So one that's online, there's ones that are free online. They're on SoundCloud, and they're from, now to try and explain, they're from specific publishers. So it's quite it's I don't exactly have the links here, but trying to think now. I think one of them I just oh yeah, I can type it here on Goom SoundCloud. You should find it. And just put in SoundCloud, so I can, yeah, that's handy. And Goom, so it's first time using YouTube Live, and you'd know it. On Goom SoundCloud, you've also got, I think, Quishliffe. SoundCloud, I would say just Googling those should bring those up. And you can hear and also buy them on their websites as well. Specific books, different books. They've got children's books and also adult books. You can also get, of course, audiobooks on CD, and also on, oh yes, there's a website, Litríocht. So I just, it's, I guess, the largest online bookshop, and that is litríocht.com, litríocht.com. And that you can find Cluslaur, as they're called, audiobooks in there as well. All right, I'll just see now if there's any others. Shamrock asked about making words plural. So that's a bit of a long question to answer, to be honest, because there are different ways. There are strong plurals, there are weak plurals, and that's all about how they end. That's really just terminology. It's like categorizing words by their ending and how they act because of their ending and stuff like that. But very often, words, this is how I'd explain it, words that end in consonants, they get an I just before the last letter. Also, there are other words, and it depends on the word. That's the thing. It depends on the word, but that's a very common one, to have just an I before the last consonant. But it really does depend on the word. It's not like English, where you can practically slap an S on at the end or an ES, and that's it. You know, you've got the plural. It's not as simple as that in Irish. So how to find out? Again, back to Changlin and folklore.ie. I'll just link that here as well. So folklore.ie. That's the way to find as well the plurals. You can find the plurals on there, and also on Changlin, which Owen linked earlier on. So that's how you can find the plural of a specific word. Sometimes some words, they have different plurals, like áitne, áitseach. It's both correct. That means places. So it depends a lot. That's the thing. It depends. But again, with these dictionaries, especially online dictionaries, it's easier than ever to find the correct plural version of a word, or pretty much any grammatical version of a word. Let's see then. Oh yes, and James Shannon there, he mentions that he listens to RT, and they've got a, yes, the Radio na Gaeltachta is, and I just typed that. So it's RTE, Radio na Gaeltachta, to be precise. So it's the same. So that's you can find that on the RT radio player. And so you can listen to RT1, RT2, or you can listen to Radio na Gaeltachta. And there's also others as well, as I mentioned, like Radio na Lifa. I'll just type that as well, which is for the now that's an independent radio station, so they have their own website. So that's Radio na Lifa, which is focusing on the Dublin area. And you've also got Radio Fáilte, which is based in Belfast. So that'll be more focusing on the Ulster dialect, of course, and Ulster affairs. So that's Radio Fáilte. Tá míle fáilte rá Hemorrog. So you're very welcome. And everyone is, of course, for all their great questions. Let's see then. And someone asked there, a few people asked actually what my dialect is. So as I mentioned there, I have a mixed dialect both in English and in Irish. In English, you could say you've been listening to me speaking English here more than Irish, unfortunately. But you can hear that it's some people. It depends on what you've been guessing. I'd say it's mostly Tipperary, but it's mixed with Galway. But some people mistake me for being from Mayo, and that's in English. So. Then in Irish, I'd say mostly Galway. Some people think I'm very Connemara, some people don't. It depends on where they're from themselves. But I also have strong Kerry influences and also some Northern influences as well. So like Ulster as well. So it's a bit of a mishmash because, you know, if you live in different places, know different people, if you're very close to someone who speaks a very different dialect, you can pick up on different influences. So it all depends. Let's see now. Now, one person was asking there about Audible books. To be honest, I don't know of any on Audible. I maybe there are. I don't know. But it's if they're not there, they should be there. And somebody will have to work on. All right. So I think we'll call it a night then. It was brilliant having you all on, and it's great to get this opportunity. And I hope to do something like this again. And thank God the technology was cooperative. So again, you can all you're all welcome to get in contact with us at info@bitesize.irish. I'll just type it there. So that's our email address. That's our email address, and our website is www.bitesize.irish. And we've got lots of different resources there, both free and paid. And we're always happy to help if you write to us or get in touch in whatever way. We're on Facebook as well. And of course, we're here on YouTube. So whenever you have any questions, we're more than happy to help. Go raibh míle maith agaibh ar fad agus fan go bhfuil mé sin bhfuil éon rodéile go hintach mar sin. Go raibh míle maith agaibh ar fad as a bheith linn agus tá ciste bháin duine. So Eileen has one more question. So if you type up your question there, I'll answer that quickly. So go raibh míle maith agaibh ar fad as a bheith linn. Agus tasúil agam si bheith cáil arís. And I hope to see you all soon, hear from you all soon again. So so the quick answer there was quick question there was ditch and the Dublin dialect. So Dublin dialect, the Leinster dialect, Dublin and Leinster, it's officially died out some decades ago, unfortunately. So there are many speakers in Dublin, and there's tons and tons of speakers in Dublin, daily speakers, fluent speakers, not so fluent speakers, every sort. But a specific Dublin dialect, I guess you could say that there is now a different type of dialect than there was before, because people who have different Dublin accents have influenced Irish. So it all depends. So there isn't a set Dublin way of saying Geochuit. So some people might say the ditch or something of that sort. It all depends. You know, it all depends on where the person learned their Irish, or if they were raised with Irish, what type of Irish their parents had. It depends a lot. It depends a lot. So that's how it is. All right. So go raibh míle maith agaibh ar fad agus ihuwa. So good night and to ye all, and thanks again. Slán go fóill.